So what inspired me to run? I haven't always been able to run ultra marathons. A few years back, I was overweight, I was unhealthy, I was stressed out with work, had a really bad work to life balance. Even running 2 laps around the park felt like the biggest effort. So I had to make a decision. It's like, am I just going to be unhealthy, be stressed out, or am I going to take control of my physical and mental well-being? So I got a personal trainer, Richard, and I trained with him once a week, and he was just like, dude, you need to get running. Anything under 5K doesn't count. It's like, okay, cool. And at this point, running 1 lap of the park, which is about 1 or 2 kilometers, felt like it was like the hardest thing I ever did. It was like max heart rate, awful feeling, but I needed to do it. I built up to 2 laps, and that's about 4K, and then 2 and a bit, and then get into 5K. And then once I could run 5K, he started inviting me out on weekends to run with him and Ian. And we'd run around Richmond. Richard would always try and find the hilliest routes, and I'd be like miles behind them, puffing and panting, trying to get up these hills. And I used to hate them. And that's partly where the name Nick Run the Hills comes from, because even though my name's Nick Hill, there's a history of me having a battle with trying to run up hills. And eventually, you get more used to it. But then after a while, it's like, oh, if I run hills more often, they become easier. And you become a stronger runner. And now, I spend a lot of my free time doing that in the middle of nowhere. And then, so you start out and running 10 or 15Ks feels like the hardest thing you've ever done. The more you do it, the easier it gets. It's never easy, but it gets easier. And then you're like, oh, maybe I can do half marathon. So you run a half marathon. And then it's like, oh, maybe you could run 30K. So you run 30K and just build it up bit by bit. And then my friend Harry was like, oh, we should run a marathon. So I'd never run a marathon before. And he said, yeah, cool, let's do it. So we just ran into central London, did a loop and came back, and that's basically a marathon. Obviously it wasn't a race, it was just purely off of like our own backs. Like getting to London was fine, then we did a loop, but then coming back, it was raining, it was just like an awful time, but got it finished. At the time, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but somehow it makes you want to come back for more. And you're like, oh, maybe if I did that, I could do like a 50K. And then if you do a 50K, you're like, oh, maybe I could go a bit further. And then recently, obviously I've done 50 miles in Squamish with quite a lot of hills, 3,000 meters of elevation. So the point is that something that starts out and that feels very hard, really not pleasant in the beginning, over time can actually grow and become something that you really enjoy. So anyone out there who's feeling like they're not really like interested in running because it feels disgusting. Yeah, it does to start with, but then you kind of get to a point where it opens up a whole new world. What started out as a way for me to lose weight and burn extra calories has now become a way for me to enrich my life and create a much more healthier lifestyle, healthier mindset. Movement's great for the body, it's great for the mind, and it gets you outdoors. I'm traveling to different areas in the UK, different areas around the world now to find trails to run. So that's what inspired me to run. Yeah. So I think
it's quite cool.